Good day, doctor and everyone. My name is Joyson with matrix number 284892. Now I will present the study on Khosan rubber industry Berhad in Malaysia and investigate the relationship between Khosan's performance and its determinants. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic, which started when 2019, is having a significant impact on Malaysia's economy. At the same time, Malaysia's glove industry was also affected by this serious issue. Khosan had temporarily halted operation at one of the company plants in Klang following the infection of 427 workers with COVID-19. The capacity failure due to the temporary suspension of the impacted plant premise is expected to be lower than 1% of the total yearly output produced. In addition, Kenanga Investment Bank Berhad and RSB Investment Bank Berhad reduced their share target price for the company to RM7.90 and RM7.50 respectively, due to the additional 563 COVID-19 cases on December 2020. Furthermore, there are also some factors that hinder the corporation's ability to build a durable competitive edge, such as a lack of critical talents, low return on investment, and so on. This research was motivated by the following research objectives. The first one is to investigate the internal firm-specific factors that may have an impact on Khosan performance in Malaysia. The second is to analyze the external or macroeconomic factors that may have an impact on Khosan's performance in Malaysia. And the third one is to examine the internal and external factors that may have an impact on the performance of Khosan. There are also three research questions of this study. First, is there any relationship between internal factors and Khosan's performance in Malaysia? Second, is there any relationship between the performance of Khosan and external or macroeconomic factors? Third, is there any relationship between internal and external factors in the performance of Khosan? The literature review is divided into two parts, which are internal and external issues, with an emphasis on corporate governance, performance, liquidity risk, credit risk, operational risk, and market risk. The performance of the company is a composite of its financial and non-financial characteristics. These variables can be utilized to identify development opportunities and reflect how well a company is carrying out its business strategy. To measure profitability, various profitability ratios are utilized, including the ROA and ROE. In this study, ROA is the internal factors, while ROE is the dependent variables. The internal factors in this study include ROA, current ratio, average collection period, debt to income, operation ratio, operating margin, and CG index. Corporate governance is a set of regulation, policies, and procedures that control the functioning of an organization. Besides that, liquidity risk is the risk that a company or individuals will not have enough cash to meet its financial obligation, pay its debts on time. In addition, credit risk is the risk of financial losses due to the borrower not being able to pay back a loan. Lastly, operational risk summarizes the uncertainties and hazards a company faces when it attempts to do its day-to-day business activity within a given field or industry. Furthermore, the external factors in this study are the inflation rate, interest rate, exchange rate, and the unemployment rate. Market risk is the possibility that an individual or other entity will experience losses due to the factor that affects the overall performance of investments in the financial market. The sampling technique is a method of studying a population through data collection and analysis. The report sample of this study is Khosan, which is the leading representative of the Malaysian glove industry. To investigate the relationship between Khosan's performance and its determinants, data from the company's annual report from 2017 to 2021 were chosen. The primary method used in this research is linear regression, often known as ordinary least squares or LS regression. The linear regression will be carried out by the researchers using SPSS 27 edition. Regression analysis is frequently used to assess the influence of independent factor on the dependent factor. The above regression approach can be used to demonstrate the effect of the independent variables on the resource-dependent variable. Descriptive statistics were utilized to describe or emphasize the features of a sample and data collection, such as the mean, median, standard deviation or frequency of a variable. Based on the picture, we can know that the average collection period recorded the highest number of mean and standard deviation. The mean of the average collection period for the company is 61.1607, which relates to the time it takes a company to obtain its account receivable from the customer. The standard deviation is 17.5959, indicating that profit will be volatile significantly within the 5 years. The average correction period is essential for the firm to monitor to establish the account receivable procedures effectiveness, which has a direct impact on the overall financial performance and cash flow of the company. According to the correlation table, the operational ratio is the most significant to the ROE or financial performance of COSAN with a p-value of 0.000027. The operational ratio measures the company's management effectiveness by comparing the total operating expenses to net revenues. A lowering operation ratio is regarded as a positive indicator since it signifies that operating expenditures become a lower percentage of net sales. Despite this, there are some variables that are not relevant to ROE or the financial performance of COSAN, since the p-value is greater than 0.10, which include the inflation rate, interest rate, and exchange rate. Compared with all of the model summaries, the model summary of the internal variables recorded the highest adjusted R-square. Just two variables, which are the CG index and current ratio, contribute to COSAN's financial performance or ROE, with an adjusted R-square of 0.980 or 98%. This means that 98% variation in profitability variable ROE can be explained by the CG index and current ratio, while the 2% is explained by other factors. For the internal variables regression coefficient, the research shows that the current ratio and CG index are positively significant to ROE with a p-value of 0.041 and 0.036 respectively. In 2021, COSAN's current ratio is 4.3434, which is the highest amount in the 5 years. A ratio under 1 indicates that the company debts due in a year or less are greater than its assets, which are cash or other short-term assets expected to be converted to cash within a year or less. However, a high ratio, which is more than 3, will indicate that the company can cover its current liabilities 3 times. It also may indicate that it is not using its current assets efficiently, securing financing very well, or properly managing its working capital. In conclusion, when cross-examining the correlation table and coefficient tables, the result demonstrates that the current ratio and CG index as the main effect on COSAN's performance. Finally, only objective number 1 is accomplished since the results reveals proof of evidence that when examined combined, internal factors do have an impact on the performance or ROE of COSAN. Therefore, there are some recommendations for the company, which is the company need a shorter borrowers or account receivable conversion cycles. Quick money flowing through borrowers will maintain a current ratio under control. If the borrowers are liquid, the ratio will at least present an accurate image. Constant contract with borrowers might help the company collect more money from them. The payment conditions should be transparent from the start, and the payment terms should be as short as feasible. Secondly, the company must pay off current liabilities. The current ratio is affected not just by current assets, but also by current liabilities, which serves as the numerator. The company must pay off its debts as frequently and as soon as feasible. This would reduce the level of current obligations, improving the current ratio. Early payments to debtors can save interest and win discount, affecting the company's profitability immediately. Besides that, the company also needs to sell unproductive assets. Cash could also be increased by disposing of underutilized fixed assets. Instead, money is needlessly trapped in them, and errors cash accrues interest charge. Moreover, balancing board compositions is an excellent strategy to accomplish effective corporate governance. If all board members share the same degree of skill and knowledge, there will be no variety of viewpoint to critically examine the firm's brand and assume its characteristics associated. In addition, the company must obtain at least 3 non-executive directors (NED) because they play a crucial role in decreasing the amount of interest conflicts between the management of the firm and its shareholders. NED frequently make independent judgments on the firm's management, resources, and performance. That's all for me. Thank you.